Welcome to Life Happens, where Texans come to protect their legacy and prepare for the second half of life. Join your host, attorney Kim Hegwood of Your Legacy Legal Care, and our weekly guest as we navigate the challenges that emerge as life happens. Now here's your host, Kim Hegwood.
Good morning and welcome to Life Happens with me, Kim Hegwood, and our very special guest today is Lori Farris. Good morning.
Morning.
And today we're going to be talking about facing dementia together. And so, Lori, what first inspired you to work on dementia care and advocacy?
Well, I went on my own journey. My father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and he gave us a run for our money. I didn't know a lot about it. I quickly learned about it, and it was a very tumultuous journey. My mom was still alive, and she, never quite understood the disease, so it was like a work in progress. And I was quickly educated and kind of led me around to doing a lot of reading and understanding and ultimately getting into this business, becoming a certified dementia practitioner.
And so, well, I'm sorry you had to learn the hard way.
Well,
And so,
it's always good by experience, kind of trial by fire.
I know I've been a caregiver, so I understand that immensely. And but from your perspective, because you come at it as somebody who's learned, being a dementia caregiver and then had the actual experience. What are the most common misconceptions that families have when they first encounter dementia?
I think, we work with clients every day trying to explain it. There's a couple misnomers, they just really get into the short-term memory loss thing in the very beginning. Like she can't remember what she had for breakfast. She doesn't know, I told her there was a doctor's appointment tomorrow. She didn't remember that. And so that might be what they notice at first, the short-term memory. And no matter how many times they tell someone or what to do or why they can't drive or why they shouldn't be living at home by themselves, it's really the sequential reasoning, the executive function it's hard to grasp that they've lost their executive function, their sequential reasoning. So when you tell a kid, don't touch the stove, it's hot, until they actually touch the stove, they don't really get it. So, you're trying to tell them you shouldn't be driving anymore. You shouldn't be, cooking. You shouldn't be living alone. It's dangerous. It's not safe. They don't understand that sequential reasoning. Why? They don't get it. They're like, I'm fine at home, but we all know they're not fine. I think another giant misconception is everyone thinks the dementia journey is a slow progress downhill, but it's really episodic. Things are going to happen. It's not if, it's when. And things are going to happen. And usually a dementia journey has very big place markers. Like it could be a UTI, it could be a death, it could be a chronic illness, COVID, virus, a fall. And so things just get exposed along the way. And because the brain doesn't have the synapses to put it back up to where it was before, it's like usually a journey of dementia is marked by episodes. And I think people don't, they're like, she could live for 20 more years. I'm like, possibly, yes. And let's knock on wood. And yes, I hope so. But usually there's something that happens that changes the trajectory of the dementia journey.
Yeah. So, how can caregivers balance compassion with the changes of daily routines and decision making?
I mean, I think, caregivers, it's such a selfless moment in people's lives. It's really, people don't, underestimate how much it really takes to be a caregiver, that you kind of lose yourself in it. So, the most important thing for a caregiver is to be sure they're taking care of themselves. They need to eat well. They need to try to get the appropriate sleep. They need to exercise, and they do need their own socialization. If
Absolutely.
you're taking care of someone, 14 hours a day, you will lose yourself in this whole thing, and you will not be healthy enough. You see a lot of depression. You see a lot of People saying, I just haven't seen my friends. I don't, I'm not being a good mom, or I'm not being a good grandmother, or, I never, I don't play bridge anymore. I don't do anything. I'm just a caregiver. So really to see, you are not good if you're not getting what you need, eating well, sleeping well, socializing, and exercising. But besides that, you need to set up the day to be successful. Like, you need to establish a routine in caregiving. It will help your caregiving day go well because the person you're caregiving will understand the routine. Like, get up, eat breakfast, go for do something physical, a walk, do some brain exercises, eat lunch, take a nap, have them take a nap, then do the same thing all over again. Something physical, something mental, read a book together, look at pictures together, play a game together, cards. If they don't understand how to play cards anymore, play war. Play something super simple, play concentration, play something, and, eat dinner and to bed. And if you set up your day to be successful, it will take less stress. You shouldn't be carting them off for dinner at 8 o'clock at night. They are not going to be successful. They might be sundowning. They won't recognize being outside of the home. And so if you set up your day to be successful in a routine, you can also figure out, maybe you can get a caregiver so you can go to your own exercise class or go for coffee with a friend. So you really need to think about yourself as much as you're thinking about that person, and figure out how to make your day more, a more concrete plan that everyone knows what they're following. I think
I find that a lot of caregivers miss their own doctor appointments.
uh,
They don't do the things that keep them healthy. And so we try really hard in my office. I'm kind of hard on caregivers. You
I
have to
know.
do this,
And
so
the problem is, if they go down, we're
yeah,
in a we're swimming uphill without a paddle. I mean,
yeah.
we have no, then the whole, game plan is gone. And now we're dealing with trying to, work on the caregiver, and then the person that needs the care. We need to make sure everyone stays healthy. And, that involves sometimes a caregiver getting a caregiver.
Well, I ask them the hard question. If you go first, what happens then? So you have to stay healthy. You have to take care of yourself in order to ensure
I
that
mean,
they're
I'm
going to
sure you
get good
see it all
care.
the time in your practice.
Yeah.
The healthy person so many times goes first because they're
Hmm.
taking on all the thought processes. They're so anxious. They're so, they're just all consumed, that sometimes their health really diminishes quickly, especially if they're doing a lot of physical work,
Yeah,
picking
that is.
people up that they, really shouldn't be. Or, a lot of times the person falls and the caregiver goes to help them and they fall too and they break their hip, and then game over.
Yeah. So well, let's try this again.
Mhm.
What role do community resources and support networks play in easing that journey for both patients and families?
I mean, we try to tell people to look outside of their own home, and, there are day programs, there are care partners, like at some churches around, that have, like a program, a support group for the caregiver. Meanwhile, they'll take the person that needs the care and, do some programming with them in another room. They really need to get out and do simple things, to go to maybe a library if there's some music, or, just small programs that they offer. Public libraries are a good resource. Churches often have, programming, things that they can also, be in a place where they might get used to, make that part of your routine. Maybe an aquatics class that you can do together, something that's good for both of them. And then I think, it's super, super, super important. I mean, they always say, I don't have time for it. I don't have time for it. They really need to find a support group. It
Yeah.
can be through the Alzheimer's Association, or it could be at a church. It could be at Hope and Healing, or it could be online. And Alzheimer's Association offers so many support groups online, but they are going through something that their other family members or friends are not. And when you go to a support group, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone out here. Like other people are doing it. And yes, it might be a little of a complaint session, or they might, but misery loves company sometimes, and you get strength in understanding you're not alone. And you really learn some amazing tips and tricks, and things that you didn't like. Oh, well, I try to do this if I'm changing the adult diapers, or my loved one is mixing up their days and nights, and try this, try that. So support groups are super helpful. Besides the emotional, it's really good for getting information.
I tell people all the time, once you've sucked all the information out of that support group, go find you another one, so because they're so helpful, they'll help you to
And
avoid you
it's a
going through.
bonding experience. People really get close to those people. I mean, there's one group that I visit once in a while, and they get together even after their loved ones have passed. They really went on a journey together.
Yeah. So are there promising developments in dementia research or care approaches that give you hope for the future?
Well, the research to cure Alzheimer's is not very promising at the moment. I did attend some things at Methodist or other hospitals. There is some studies being done on people that are predisposed. Maybe it's genetic or in their lineage, or for very, very early onset to slow down the building of this tau protein. I think in the next couple of years, we're going to see some stuff for people that haven't really contracted it, but through blood tests do have the predisposed gene that could help slow down the before it really becomes the dementia problem. There's a lot of research being done in so many different places. We are super close. It's just they haven't isolated exactly. But there is a lot of knowledge out there, and continuing advice and technology to help people deal on a day-to-day basis with being a caregiver.
So Lori, if somebody wants to find you, how do they do that?
They can call me at 713-240-6302, or visit our website, www.seniorlivingspecialisthouston.com, or Lori at SLSHOU.com.
And so, Lori, I really appreciate you being on the show today. It's always good information when you've got somebody that has some really good personal experience. And we look forward to having you on again soon.
Please. Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Life Happens with Kim Hegwood. Be sure to tune in every Thursday at 10 a.m. wherever you listen to your podcast as we navigate through the challenges that emerge as life happens. The content of this podcast does not establish an attorney-client relationship or constitute attorney-client privilege, legal, medical, financial, or any other professional advice.